Brilliance Audio presents Caligula, the Mad Emperor of Rome, by Stephen Dando-Collins, performed by James Anderson Foster. In his pregnant mother's arms, a boy who was just days short of his second birthday watched, wide-eyed and terrified, as soldiers rioted in front of them. The time, late August AD 14. The place, the summer military camp of 4 legions or regiments of the Roman army of the Lower Rhine. The tented camp sat within a stone's throw of a relatively new township that occupied a small oval island close to the west bank of the Rhine River. Then called Oppidum Ubiorum, that town would grow into today's German city of Cologne. For the 52 years since its inception, the town had been home to the German tribe, the Ubii, who'd been encouraged by Roman general Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa to move from east of the Rhine to the western side and become part of the Roman Empire. On this midsummer's day, the commander-in-chief of all the 8 Roman legions on the Rhine, who was just 29 years of age, was absent from the camp. His name was Germanicus Julius Caesar, and he was a Roman prince. The grandnephew of Augustus, Rome's first emperor, and nephew and adopted son of Tiberius, Augustus's heir apparent, Germanicus was the father of the small boy who found himself surrounded by rioters at his Rhine headquarters. The boy's name was Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. Because he wore a small legionary-style red tunic and sandals made for him by legion artisans, the boy had picked up an affectionate nickname, Caligula, which means little boot. This cute little tyke became the pet of the troops, says Seneca, who knew him in adulthood, so much so that the soldiers had come to think of the child as their mascot, their lucky charm. Caligula's father, the handsome, athletic, charismatic Germanicus, possessed massive popularity with the Roman people. Says Suetonius, Germanicus, many writers record, had won such intense popular devotion that he was in danger of being mobbed to death whenever he arrived at Rome or took his leave again. Germanicus's popularity, in fact, would fan the protest in the Cologne camp from a situation of murderous discontent into one of a potential military coup. Conversely, it would be his infant son's popularity that enabled Germanicus to regain control of his troops. Days before this, word had reached the Rhine legions that after a reign of 45 years, the Emperor Augustus had died at Rome. Augustus had brought decades of stability and surety to an empire that had been rocked by years of civil war originating with Julius Caesar. Minus the solid foundation that Augustus had represented, like a house built on sand, his army quickly became unstable in the Balkans and on the Rhine. Within the ranks of the army of the Lower Rhine, uncertainty swiftly grew into rebellion. Germanicus had been in neighboring Gaul at the time, supervising the annual tax collection. His 2 eldest boys, who were not yet teenagers, were back at Rome, living at the palace of Germanicus on the Palatine Hill with their grandmother Antonia. The mother of Germanicus, Antonia, was the youngest daughter of Mark Antony. At Rome, those elder boys were being schooled with other imperial children. In May, Augustus had sent Caligula to his mother, Agrippina the Younger, from Rome accompanied by several attendants, including a doctor, telling Agrippina to keep the doctor if he proved useful. Suetonius tells us that Caligula suffered from epilepsy in childhood, and some modern historians have postulated that this was why the emperor had included a doctor in the child's traveling party. However, childhood epilepsy typically doesn't make an appearance until around the age of 3, and at the time of Caligula's trip from the capital to the Rhine, he was only 21 months of age. The inclusion of a doctor was likely to have been merely a regular precaution. Germanicus had not immediately returned from Gaul to Cologne when he learned of Augustus's death.